Good morning and welcome to SEN Stream. This morning we take a look ahead to week 3. We discuss the mentor scheme available at the University of Westminster. We take a look at some expert commentaries on the game changers. And as always, we take some questions and provide answers in the chat. Guys, stay tuned to find out more. Guys, good morning. Welcome to episode 2 of SEN Stream. Just a declaration. You have joined me in my attic at the moment. I know it doesn't look like my attic, but I can rest assured that it's freezing cold in here, and it is definitely my attic. I've not been very well. I'm still not very well. So if I sound like I'm having a coughing fit or that I need to blow my nose, that's because I do. So I apologise in advance for that. But it's not me we should be worried about. Christy is still pregnant, which is a heroic effort, unfortunately, in that regard. Knowing the, I say knowing the burden of being pregnant. What I actually mean there is appreciating it from my partner's perspective, being pregnant. So, Christy, we're all thinking of you. I hope everything's going well, and do keep us up to date because we want to know what's going on. So. There's a few mornings to to get off to kick off with. My phone's going mental. Just 1 second. I'm trying to do everything at once here. Right, okay. So, Philippa, good morning. Welcome to the stream. Christy, obviously, good morning. And hello to Bump, who you may well be resting your mobile device on. Who knows? I know my partner rested her digestive biscuits on the top of her Bump when she had that. Adam, good morning. Yes, the Big Ben has bonged today. He bongs at the start of every single session, and it doesn't cost me hundreds of thousands of pounds to do it. So take what you want from that. Who else have we got in the chat this morning? I believe I just saw Fran's name pop up. Fran, good morning. Welcome to the chat. Welcome everyone. Really great to have you all on board. I have absolutely no idea what the quality is like, as always. If I sound weird, let me know, or if the stream is jumping around all over the place, then do let me know as well. Great to have everybody in the chat today. We are going to we're going to go through a few bits and pieces this morning. I've got a few extra little things to share with you as well, so do stay tuned throughout. But we'll kick off with the module updates, and then we're going to get stuck into a few different pieces. So I've got a bit on the mentoring scheme, which is hosted at the university, and we've also got a little bit of stuff on the game changers. So most of you are doing advanced performance nutrition. We were talking a little bit about myths. And the almost like a culture of misinformation or information that's presented in a particular way, which isn't so great, and talking about ways that we can maybe try and tackle those types of commentaries, cultures, attitudes, behaviours. And Ask You Can Drops put a really nice piece together with regards to the game changers. So he's kind of looked at some of the evidence that's presented on there and gone through and sort of scientifically critiqued it, if you like. To find out what the evidence is actually like and how strong it is. So, nice little session that we've got today. Thank you for letting me know, Christy, that it sounds fine. Excellent. So with that in mind, let's crack on with the module updates. As always, guys, there'll be plenty of opportunities for you to ask any questions throughout. So if you do have any questions, just drop it in the chat. If it's not appropriate for me to answer it straight away, then I'll wait until we actually have like a Q&A session. But it can be to do with any aspects of the course. It could be to do with what's going on in your nutrition life at the moment. or it could be something that's very module specific, whatever it could be. So if you've got any questions, please line them up, because whilst I put on the normal SEN Stream show, the main part and the main objective is of actually doing the SEN Stream is to give you another opportunity to just speak to a member of staff. So if you've got questions, line them up, because then at least I can then make a list of them if I can't answer them, or at least try and answer them as best I can moving forward. So, but without further ado, let's have a look at what is going on. We are going to kick off with advanced performance nutrition. Now, excuse me. This afternoon, hopefully, first of all, you enjoyed the second session that we put on. It was a bit more discussion based, I have to say. We talked a little bit too much actually in that regard, but hopefully you found it useful and interesting, and that you've all taken the opportunity to be working on Graham's case study ahead of next week's session. So I'll take a look at that as well, and maybe we could come and sort of put our minds together a little bit, just for sort of 10 minutes at the start of the session to see how you guys got on with that particular task. Now, ahead of next week, this afternoon I'll be posting up the carbohydrate case studies. So a similar type of session to what we did with the vegetarian athlete, where we're going to try and unpick the case studies that are presented to you. And this comes directly after the carbohydrate feeding session that I'm going to lead for you guys. And it will be a really nice opportunity to try and sort of apply some of the stuff that we talk about within the lecture to those case studies, to kind of getting you thinking about how you might actually apply some of the kind of critique or the review of some of the carbohydrate literature that we're going to consider. So yeah, I will be, after this actually, because I've got all the kits set up ready to go, I'll record a couple of pre-lecture, pre-tutorial videos to go through, so that you guys can invest a little bit of time over the next 4 days to just try and get ready for those sessions. Be mindful as well, the reading list, there's plenty of stuff on there for you to get your teeth into if you're particularly interested in a topic. So do head across there and click on some of those links that are available online, just to get yourself involved. Now, a few of you have been in touch with regards to ushering me along a bit with regards to the assessment. So fear not is what I would say. First of all, I don't know when the exam is. All I can tell you is the exam is in the exams period. If you don't know when that is, then go and take a look at the university calendar on the website. You'll see that a postgraduate exams period is held between a particular set of dates. The reason I'm not being specific about it is because it's probably good practice for you to go and look at it yourself, so then at least you know, and then you can put it in your calendars and such like. So yes, you have an exam. It's in the exams period. I don't know when it is yet, but as soon as I do find out, I will definitely let you know. But for example, maybe don't book a 2-week holiday during the 2-week exam period, is all I'm going to sort of suggest on that front. Now, with regards to coursework, the coursework that's associated to this particular module, I've earmarked week 13 for the submission of that. So there's plenty of time ahead of you to get stuck into that. And I was thinking with regards to the formative assessment that we're going to do that around sort of week 6 and 7. Now, again, we were talking, for those that are doing the full-time course, this impacts you a little bit more because there was a little bit of discussion around the nutritional assessment stuff. I've been kind of waiting for that to land and sort of see where it sits, because if it remains at week 8, which I'm not sure if it is or isn't at this stage, but if someone knows more definitively in the chat, then please do let me know. But essentially what we would have to do, if it remains in week 8, then it will probably be week 6 that you do the submission of the formative for me. And if it swaps, then it will be week 8 for the formative submission for me. And I do envision turning those formative assessments around quite quickly, so that you've actually got a little bit of time to actually enact some of the feedback that you get, so you've got plenty of time to turn that around. Now, there will also be a date with regards to when you need to swap your client videos, and that will be included in the client in the assessment details that I will send out to you. So thank you for rushing me along. That's absolutely fine to do that, but if I get a chance to put that out this afternoon, I'll put it out. If I don't, it will be probably on Monday, so do keep an eye out for that. Be keen to get it out ahead of next week's session. So again, the final thing for me to say with regards to advanced performance nutrition is to just make sure that you take the opportunity to have a look through that case study that I set with Graham, because we didn't get a chance to go through it in the session, and then you'll have the opportunity to move forward in the session next week. I haven't seen anything pop up on the chat, but I will just have a quick look to see if anything did. I've just clicked the wrong thing. There we go. Excellent. Okay, again, any questions with regards to any of that, just fire away in the chat, and I will pick it up from there. Okay, let's move it on to the next module. if you see me looking in this direction, it's because the screen that you guys see is also over there as well. So just to bear that in mind. Again, my attic is not massive, so we are kind of crammed in here, but never mind, we're persevering. Okay, research methods for health sciences 2. Let me just close the chat box so that everyone can see what's going on. So Teddy sent through some updates. So next week's topic is your scoping review. So some preliminary introduction to the dissertation guidelines. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to join the dissertation guidelines session yesterday that staff members hosted. I'm hoping to get an update from staff members today, though Claire has been in touch to give me a little bit of insights to what discussed. And I also took the opportunity to ensure that some of those guidelines were more refined for the sport and exercise nutrition students. So I'm keen to find out what the outcome of that particular discussion was. So hopefully, so this scoping review session will really help with you thinking about your introduction section if you within your dissertation. So ultimately, you're going to have to be writing a literature review or a more comprehensive introduction, which sets the tone of your thesis and why it is that you're actually going to bother doing that particular topic, or where is the elements of the novelty of your project, like why are we going to bother doing that particular topic. So that scoping review will really help you to kind of form a narrative around why it is that you're going to bother doing that particular topic. And as such, so that's section 1 of that. Teddy's indicated here that we're trying to he's going to try and get the dissertation guidance document out around about week 4 on Blackboard, so expect an announcement on that. And then the second part of the session is going to be looking at this idea of purposive sampling for qualitative research. So I know quite a few of you are actually using qualitative methods, and even if you're not, it's still a very useful session to get yourself over to, because you can then start to think about how you might use that in different settings in your practice, because you do actually utilize quite a lot of qualitative methodology in client consultations, in dealing with clubs, in trying to understand what the nutritional practices are of different environments. So do get yourself across there and find out what's going on. And the final piece of advice that Teddy suggested here is to just try and keep that conversation with your dissertation supervisor going, simply because you are responsible for the kind of keeping that conversation going and taking control of your project. So do bear that in mind. So if you haven't spoken to your dissertation supervisor, or you need to get a little bit more clarity moving forwards, definitely do that so that you can actually keep up and keep on with what's going on. Let me just keep an eye on the chat. Excellent. So again, any questions with regards to that? If I get any more specific updates with regards to the dissertation guidelines document and where it's up to, I will definitely let you know via an announcement on Blackboard. But as it stands, there's a few final pieces that need clearing up before it's formally released. And the thing is with this is that I'd rather it's done once and well rather than multiple times badly. So do keep an eye out for that moving forwards. Okay, next module. I believe we're on to assessment of health and fitness with Jane. Got a couple of slides here just because she's got a few things that she wants to talk to you about. So she's just sort of saying great work on the practical. And apparently all you guys are a bunch of vampires because you're very good at taking the blood sample. So well done for that. You'd be surprised at how much finger prick blood sampling you may do in your professional lives if you have your own consultancy, because it's a very accessible way of you finding out a little bit more about your clients and your participants. And similarly, if you do a research project and you want some basic blood parameters, they're a really effective way of doing that. So do bear that in mind. It also sets you up really nicely for the next type of testing that you're going to do, which is your lactate threshold assessments, followed by a VO2 max test. So it's very common to keep these two assessments together because your lactate threshold is taking you progressively up towards VO2 max intensity anyway. So what you can tend to do is get your blood samples as your lactate value starts to increase, and then you can simply continue to ramp up the protocol until you reach VO2 max if you repeatedly sample the breath while you do that. Not exactly sure the exact protocol that you guys are going to be using during that session, but that's the general gist of it. And protocols vary depending on individuals, laboratories, modality as well. So Jane's indicating here that she's got a gold standard approach that she's going to be using. So do keep a lookout for that. Now, she makes the valid point here that not all clients, if you get them in for testing, will want maximal testing doing. And similarly, you may not have the equipment in your own practice to be able to actually measure VO2 max by looking at oxygen consumption. And as such, submaximal VO2 max assessments can actually be really nice predictors of what your participant or client's VO2 max may be if you were to actually go ahead and measure it. So you might have access to a treadmill or a bike, so if you could use a submaximal test which predicts VO2 max, then at least you could be in a better place than not knowing what an individual's VO2 max is at all. So starting with the gold standard measures, finger prick blood sampling for the lactate, moving on to VO2 max, and then its application into submaximal testing from there. Now consider as well your assessment on this particular module is going to involve actually physically testing someone. And as such, you really want to be in a good place to be able to know what is available to you. If you've got finger prick blood sampling, lactate determination, or if you want maximal lactate steady state, or if you want to determine VO2 max, then these are all really useful techniques and skills to be able to bring to that particular assessment. So it has got a lot of practicability in terms of your course and for your later development as well. Let's keep an eye on the old chat as we move through. And finally, Jane has put up some assessment, in the fitness testing groups in an assessment folder. So Jane is also going to take the opportunity to try and get those client portfolios towards you by next week. So at least you know what testing group you're going to be in and the individual that you are actually going to be making an assessment on. You actually know what the characteristics are of that person. So do bear that in mind. And finally, Avoni, a PhD student as part of the School of Life Sciences, is supervised by Dr. Bradley Elliott, is doing some workshops again this year. Now, these workshops were very well received last year, and it's just an opportunity for you to really delve into some of the experience, like really hands-on, practical, real-life experience that Avoni brings to the program, because she's doing these tests all the time, and therefore she can talk about her reflections about what's worked well, what doesn't work so well, and those types of things that you can benefit from. So if you're going to book in with Avoni, do take that opportunity and talk about her experiences. Ask her, how did she get her PhD? Why has she gone down this pathway? Or why does she use that particular VO2 max test? Or why does she use that particular protocol? And really try and get the best value out of those workshops from her. So do take the opportunity to do that and take advantage of those additional workshops moving forward. As I say, last year's cohorts, or the cohorts in previous years, have really enjoyed those sessions. So do take advantage of them. Okay, let's move it on. Okay, so nutritional assessment with Claire. Now, so I took the session in Research Methods for Health Sciences 2, and I believe the GPHN course reps, they stood up at the start of the session and discussed this, the assessment dates. So I'm not sure where that's going to land at this particular moment in time. They did take a little bit of a snapshot as to who's doing what and when. But I mean, wait for Claire's update to confirm those submission dates, and then you can kind of go from there. Now, next week's session, you're going to have a practical introduction to dietary assessment, considering different techniques such as 24-hour recall, weighed food diaries, and food frequency questionnaires as well. So looking through the practical applications of those, potentially considering some of the limitations, and then also considering under what circumstances would be best to use those types of things, because they all have different burdens on the individuals who will actually be undertaking them. And as such, you really need to factor that in terms of how accurate do you need it to be, how valid and representative of that sample do you need to be, and also what amount of time do you have to analyse those diaries or questionnaires or whatever they are, and how much time the participant actually has to undertake them as well, and the impacts that they may have on their actual recording of dietary practices. So, Claire, there was a little bit of feedback from a GPHN student on Wednesday, with regards to, well, what is coursework 2? It'd be really helpful to find out exactly what that is. Well, Claire's going to take the opportunity to do that, and then how you can use some of the materials covered in the session towards that particular coursework. And then Claire's going to take the opportunity to give you a Q&A session on coursework 1, which will be for the first 15 minutes of class. So if you've got a question, turn up on time and you'll get the opportunity to ask it. And then outside of that, Claire is very keen to use discussion boards with regards to questions on the module. Again, why? If you use a discussion board, then everybody benefits from the answer that Claire gives. Whereas if it all just sits in people's inboxes, there's no real kind of benefit to there's no efficiency there, and there's no benefit from you benefiting from other people's questions that you might not have considered. So there is a degree of collegialism here and altruism, if you like, about putting your question out there that you've considered and thought about, and then you never know, you might benefit from monitoring those discussion boards and seeing a question that you hadn't previously considered. So do bear that in mind when you think about asking questions to Claire, or generally for that matter, actually. Okay, I think that's all the modules from memory. Yes, excellent. Right, before we carry on, let's head over to the chat and we will take the opportunity to have a see if anyone has any questions. Excellent. So, an exciting week ahead is what I would say on that front. You've got a range of different things, irrespective of whether you're part-time or full-time, so you get your teeth into. And a lot of those sessions, they have a bit of preparation involved with them, so you'll get the most out of them if you take the opportunity to do the readings, do some of those case studies, and generally get involved with what it is that you need to be doing. Excuse me. I'll be honest and say I am just killing a little bit of time to find out whether there are any questions that are going to come in that I can try and answer for you. And whilst I do that, I'll just see how many people are watching, so I know I'm not talking to myself. And in the meantime, while I'm waiting, I'm just going to get open the stuff that I want to cover on the game changes thing. So if you have any questions, now is definitely your time to ask them while I find this stuff. Ask her. Excellent, good stuff. So I found my links. So if anybody does have anything to ask, now is your moment. Other than that, I am going to open a couple of links here for you guys to have a look. The stream may be melting down as I do this because it generally doesn't like it if I do multiple things at once. Now, this article is fairly comprehensive. I will be perfectly honest and say I've kind of skim-read it rather than kind of really gone into the absolute details of it. But do have a look at it if you're interested in it. And we were talking about how can you debunk some of these theories and myths. So I'm going to take you all across there now, and I'm just going to change my view, assuming there's no questions that have come in. Perfect. Okay, let's head across there now then. Discussion view. Okay, so you can see on my screen here, and I'm going to drop a link in the chat so you guys can have a look as well. Again, how do I find this stuff? I find this stuff because I use Twitter a lot. So do take a look at this link that I've just sent through. That'll take you through to the website. I'm just going to ditch this, and I will open up this game changing. Let me just get rid of this. Yeah, I apologize if my stream is becoming a bit jumpy. It's simply because I'm asking my computer to do multiple things. Okay, so this is by Asker Ukendrup. I believe he is a visiting insert prefix type of professor from the University of Birmingham. I can't remember his exact title, I'm afraid. But essentially, poses the question here, is game changers game-changing, or is it sensationalism? And we talked a little bit about, the idea around cherry-picking data, about forming a narrative around an idea rather than letting the evidence form the narrative, which is the difference here. And it's almost like you say, there's been a selection of evidence to suggest whether something is ethical or works or not, depending on what the kind of motivation or the narrative behind that particular discussion is. Again, I've admitted I haven't seen Game Changers. I probably should invest a bit of time to see what the general populace is getting involved with. But Asker does a really nice job here of sort of giving a little bit of context as to how we went about unpicking some of the evidence here. So he's watched it a number of times and identified where the evidence that wasn't used, whereby providing this kind of one-sided insight. If I just make my screen a bit bigger, you guys might be able to see this better as well if you're not already looking at the article. I'd be curious to know if anyone has actually read this. So do take a look at this. Anything to do with carbohydrate feeding and glycogen synthesis, breakdown, utilization, high-fat diets, all that kind of stuff, or fat utilization, optimization of fat. Asker has published multiple international papers on this, so again, would be considered an expert to kind of unpick some of this stuff. And you can see carbohydrate is plant, and plant is carbohydrate. They say enough protein from plants, ? Plant-based inferior. Some of you might have answered this question in the recent concepts exam. Incomplete, as in incomplete protein sources. Many papers, so they can talk about that. Anecdotes, inflammation, strong claims, blah, blah, blah. So let me know in the chat if anyone's read it or come across it. It'd be interesting to know if you have. And if you haven't, take a look. Inform yourself. See if you agree, disagree, if there's any value you could add to this particular conversation, whether you've done something for your own blog or for your own website or for your own clients to try and unpick some of that debate, and whether you reference some of this material that Asker's put together. But take an opportunity to have a look. You know, it takes a lot of time to put something like this together, and therefore if you can benefit from that and learn something from it, you'll be in a good place to try and do that. So let me post the link in the chat for you guys, just in case you want to just head there straight away. Don't have a Twitter account. Philip has come in. Thank you, Philip. I was thinking I was talking to an empty room in some ways, but there we are. So Reddit shared it with several friends who turned vegan in January after watching it. I'd be curious to know what you think about it, Philippa. I'd be curious to know what some of your friends, and was it the only reason why they took vegetarianism or veganism up, or is there a bit more of a societal, cultural thing about, you know, reducing meat consumption? Like we had, veganary, I think it was the term where people cut out meat for a month to see if they could do it. I heard some interesting commentary on Radio 4 about that, actually, but probably a conversation for a different day. But great to see that you're engaging with the content and the conversation around this particular topic, because it's obviously something that is important to people, and it's something that people seem to be placing a lot of value in, and curious to know whether we should be putting value in to that kind of conversation anyway. So anyway, there it is. Take a look, get involved, let me know what you think if you see me in the corridor, and we can kind of politely go from there. Now, I am going to politely move it on, and I will keep an eye on the chat. If anyone does have any strong thoughts and feelings on the matter, I will definitely revisit the topic, and we can go from there. But let's take a look at the next opportunity moving forward. So I said to you each time that for those that are doing a research project, we're going to do keeping you on track, or KIOTS as it were. Again, because we're so early in the phase, just a polite reminder, if you like, that at this particular moment in time, your emphasis should be in ensuring that you know what your topic is, that you've had a conversation with your supervisor, or you've arranged a meeting to ensure that you're kind of narrowing that down, and you're starting your journey towards creating that design study submission. Now, there needs to be a degree of independence here, that you're coming up with the idea, the design, the model, what variables you want to use, so that when you present that, you get the most amount from the feedback that you'll get from the members of staff sat in the room. So do take the opportunity to do that. And again, for those that are not engaging, or could engage more, shall we say, with their supervisor, take the opportunity to do that while you can. Okay, next thing. So I was recently contacted by some of the more senior members of the School of Life Sciences to talk about the Career Mentor session. Now, for the eagle-eyed and astute viewers of the course Blackboard sites, you will see that I've already posted this within the employability section. So if I just go across there now and have a quick look, let's get it open. So if I go across to my modules and courses, you'll come across the course Blackboard site. I'm just going to go on the full-time Blackboard site as it stands at the moment. And if we go down, so this is the staff view, there's loads of things that you can and cannot see. But if you head to the employability tab, Once you click on the employability tab, it will take you through to this University of Westminster mentor program. So let's have a look at that now. Now there's a session coming up on the 13th of February. You can see just here. It's over at Little Titchfield Street, which is literally like 3 minutes down the road from New Cavendish Street. Between 5 and 6 p.m. So you'll have your assessment, health and fitness on Thursday. Then you'll be able to do some, work in between now and between the end of that session and this session. And you'll get to go across to find out more about the career mentoring scheme that the university has. Now, it's essentially it's an initiative offered by the university which allows students to be paired up with a career mentor who would hopefully match you in some area. So whether that's entrepreneurship or whether that's management or nutrition. I know they struggle for the nutrition mentors because they've not managed to attract that many. That might be different now because there's some better links in the university with nutrition in mind. But it basically gives you an opportunity to get some tailored career support in order for you to try and career manage and career plan moving forward, which would be hugely beneficial for a lot of you if you're struggling to think about a clear pathway. You get hands-on one-to-one sessions with someone who's been there, done it, knows what it feels like to be kind of a little bit out there, and you can benefit from their experience. So on the Thursday the 13th, there is a session which you can register at this particular link, which I will drop in the chat now. Sorry, my nose is getting worse and worse, so I apologise. I'm trying to keep it all in, but struggling. So if you want to register an event, get yourselves across there. If there's a few of you, you could go for a beer afterwards, which would be nice. Yeah, the Yorkshire Grey's just around the corner from there, which is a really nice pub. So anyway, get yourselves across there. Now, why would you want to go to this? Well, it'll inform you more about what the Career Mentor Scheme is, and also it will indicate how exactly you go about applying for Cycle 2, which runs from April to October, which means, you will run all the way through the summer period and then towards just before you graduate around November time. And this October is when you find out your final mark and overall grade if you're a full-time student graduating this year or a part-time year 2 student. Yeah, take the opportunity to go and have a look. If you think you would benefit from the scheme, go to the scheme and find out more. From students who I've spoken to before, not necessarily on the postgrad program, but on the undergrad programs, they do feel that this is beneficial. They get paired with a mentor, which is that they connect with and they benefit from the experience from and things like that. So there's the opportunity. It's on Blackboard for both full-time and part-time. Click on the employability tab, sign up, click the link that I've just put in the chat and see if you want to go and get involved from there. Excellent. Okay, now I believe we're on to, sorry, let me just get my slides open. I hate it when you can see all the mechanics behind SEN Stream. I try and protect it as much as possible, but there we are. Okay, we're there. We're at the chat, 35 minutes in. Let's see if anyone has got anything to say. I hate this bit because you always leave me hanging and I never know what to do or say when I'm sat here. So, again, exciting week ahead. Some interesting articles outwith of the normal degree program for you to read with regards to the game changes. I might take the opportunity to watch one this weekend and get involved, and then have a look at Aska's sort of discussion around the topic and see whether I align or not. The thing is, like I said to you, advanced performance nutrition, the likelihood is I'll probably just get annoyed and upset by it all. So, yeah, buckle in. Have a glass of wine with me at the time or something along those lines. I don't know, but and see how we get on. But it's an interesting one because I read in the news this morning that Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop program is again has just been released and is a bit controversial with regards to some of the practices that they're promoting, with various different court cases and legal battles around whether they should actually be saying some of the stuff that they are saying. So this idea around providing like scientific support and underpinnings to what is actually something that's probably not very clear, or there isn't a particularly established way of doing something, or that a new, novel, interesting, innovative technique is actually the best way of doing something, or that there's any evidence to support that it does work. So there is a lot of this about, and therefore being informed about that conversation moving forwards is probably not such a bad move, to keep yourselves afloat with what your clients may be presenting with you in the future. So let's keep that conversation open and going and see where it goes, really. So, but again, I am just killing time until someone asks a question, so don't leave me hanging. I mean, we could start taking votes as to when Christie's going to give birth. That would be interesting. Though I suspect at 41 weeks, it's going to happen sometime soon, if not already. I don't know, but again, since we kicked off with Christie's pregnancy, good luck with everything moving forward, Christy. I hope everything goes well for you, and again, keep us up to date moving forward. So, excellent. I suppose one question I might have for you guys is, again, I ask this every week, but I never get a response. But if there's anything that you would like me to cover in SEN Stream, then let me know, because at least then if I've got topics that I know that you guys are interested in and I know you want covering, I can do that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be from like a news perspective. It could be from like a general interest perspective in terms of like specific topics in sports nutrition that you want a little bit more advice on or guidance on, or something in a lecture that you didn't quite get. As long as I've got a little bit of time to prep some material for it, then I can try and answer some questions that are a little bit more in depth or require a bit more of a response, really. But again, it's driven by you. So if you ask, I'll try and accommodate for that. And if you don't, then there's not really much I can do about that, other than try and second guess what you guys want and try and add value to the stream like that. I know you guys enjoy the stream, but sometimes I don't always know why. What is it, the elements that you do like, and how could it be better improved? So if there are specific things I could improve it with, then let me know. And we'll go from that. Christy's come in and said, "Thank you. I'll keep you posted on SEN Baby." Fantastic. That's good to know. But genuinely, yeah, excited for you. My youngest, who to follow on Twitter? That's a good question. Good question. When I was new to Twitter, I had the same problem, and I'm very mindful of just like willy-nilly following people, because when I go into Twitter, I want to make sure that when I look through my timeline, that the vast majority of the stuff that's on there is something that I'm actually interested in. And again, I'm quite strict with my Twitter account. I don't tend to put anything on that deviates away from sport and exercise science, sport and exercise nutrition, cycling. That's it. Those are the only topics that I cover. And the kind of maybe the nuance around a lot of scientific publishing and the scientific community, if you like. And that's it. There is no other thing that I would talk about on there. I don't complain to companies on there. I don't talk about my commute on there. I don't do any of that stuff. So I'm very, very specific. And as such, I don't follow companies on there. I don't follow anyone that kind of dilutes that message or gives me an opportunity to deviate from the real purpose of why I have a Twitter account. And that sounds like really rigid and stuff, but it just means that it makes like going through my Twitter feed more efficient. And it's only stuff that I actually want to engage with or be made aware of that's on there. Now, how do you get that? Well, essentially, there's a lot of people that have already done that work for you. So, for example, if you went on Asker's profile, look at who he follows. Then you can start to pick out the organizations like, International Olympic Federation or Commission or whatever it is with the sports nutrition thing. So they've got the IOC diploma in sports nutrition. I know he follows that. And then maybe some of the academics. So you can look through the followed lists and actually think, why don't we do that now? Because that would be interesting. Let's have a look. So let's get a Twitter account open. I'm just doing this in the background, and then once it's open, I'll ping it up. Excuse me, sorry. Okay, let's have a look. But if Philippa, I've seen that you've posted something. I'll definitely come back to you on that. Let me just cover this off first. So I'm on Twitter. The research office is saying some interesting stuff. So Alan St. Clair Gibson is a good guy to follow. He's a bit opinionated and does tend to talk a lot about politics, but that's fine. He's a professor of sport and exercise science. So here's Asker, here's James Morton, Lewis James. Again, searching for them because they're doing interesting things at the moment. So let's have a look at Asker. Professor of exercise metabolism, consultant in elite sport. You can see he's got 48,000 followers, but he only follows 571, which is not an unfeasible amount of people to look through. Now, he's spent a lot of time identifying the people that he wants to follow, and as such, you can just simply go around his list and go from there. The Professor Tim Hoax, a parody account of Professor Tim Noakes. If you don't know who Tim Noakes is, I suspect you probably want to go and follow him for some of the controversial stuff that's sent out from there. International Journal of Sports Nutrition, Exercise, Metabolism, probably not a bad one to follow. And just while I'm here, I'd be interested in following that one, so I'm going to add that one. And he's got some cyclists. This is Tom de Milan, Lawrence de Plus. And if we keep going through, Kirsty Sale, reader and associate professor in female physiology at NTU, specialising in female athletes' maternal health, probably worth a follow. So let's stick her in. And you can see I'm just going through the list and identifying those that seem to be operating. So this guy, professor of sports psychology, performance behaviour, is a little bit outwith of my interest range, and as such, I'm probably not going to follow him. And I just go through like that and try and identify people that I'd be interested in. Now again, I had James Morton here. Let's have a click on him and see who he follows. 12,000 followers with 950 following. And again, you can do the exact same process of just going through. Now, just knowing James as a person, I suspect there's probably some additional interests that are covered in this particular follow list. But that's how I would go about doing it. And yeah, go from there, basically. Hopefully that was helpful. I don't know. But that's how I would do it. Or that's how I did do it. And I'd probably recommend that you do the same. Let me go back to the chat. Excellent. Philippa, let me just get that window open. So Philippa said here, environmental concerns mainly. Film encouraged many to trial more extreme diet. Eucandrove highlights climate change positively, but questions the degree of evidence in and sponsored products. Worth a read, indeed. I mean that, yeah. The thing is, the environmental issues and protein consumption is, we know that particularly animal sources of protein result in higher carbon emissions, full stop. And if the environment and carbon emissions are something that's important to you and you think that you should reduce your meat consumption, then fair enough. But again, I feel like the argument is not quite as simple as that, because, for example, if you reduce your meat consumption and therefore become a vegetarian or vegan or any derivative of that, but then you start, buying avocados en masse from Venezuela, what is the carbon impact of those being shipped across the world? And is it actually more beneficial for you to be increasing vegetable, plant-based consumption from international products? And therefore, if you really wanted to tear this kind of argument apart, then essentially it would boil down to you buying British-made vegetables, which is an option to you, and you would eat seasonally as well. So your menu would vary depending on seasonal availability. So you wouldn't be eating melons and avocados in December, for example. And as such, like how strict do you want your nutritional intake to be to align with environmental impact? So that, I don't want to. It's not my area of expertise. It's just, I have an opinion. I have a thought on that. I'm happy to share that with you. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that these are points for consideration, really. And I suspect it's something that if you do work with clients moving forward, that, environmental awareness and concern is likely to be a topic that you will face and have to justify, particularly if a client comes up to you and says, I want a high performance diet but has a minimal impact on the environment. Then you probably be mindful to make sure that you know what's having an impact on the environment and in what way. And also, are you going to be able to achieve the nutritional goals of this individual simply by consuming a plant-based diet, depending on who they are, what they're doing, etc., etc. So, yeah, that's just my kind of thoughts on the matter. But again, thank you for asking with regards to the Twitter question. Again, I'm more than happy to do more features on that. How can you develop a Twitter presence? What's the best way of engaging with people? Again, I'm not saying I'm a social media expert. I just use it, and I can tell you about how I use it and how I've seen others use it. One topic on that is the use of infographics. There's so many terrible infographics on Twitter because people think that just putting blocks of text in an image is an infographic. It's not. An infographic needs to go beyond that. It needs to add value to a message through good design. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there who think they're good at design and are not. it's just that there's this desire and need for infographics to translate and communicate nutritional knowledge and ideas and the findings of papers. But there's a lack of people there who seem to have like astute design capabilities to be able to communicate that effectively, in my opinion. I just see so many terrible infographics. I'm like, you might as well have just put a paragraph of text in there because it does the same thing. It's just that you've saved it as an image file and it's got a banner above it. That's pretty much it. But there are some good examples out there, don't get me wrong. And also, you could say, well, Mike, why don't you make your own infographics then? And it's like, well, that would be lovely if I had the time to do that. So, fair enough to these people who are getting them out there. It's better than maybe not having them out there, but continuing that conversation. But I do think if you're sat there and thinking, well, I do think I've got a fair amount of design skills, or I like to visually communicate information, there's definitely a place for that on Twitter if you wanted to increase your reach and your scope, if you like. So the other way of achieving that, I mean, I am just talking nonsense now. I'm just waiting for questions to come in, to be honest with you. But say, for example, you had a friend who you wanted to collaborate with. You did the science and the understanding and the extraction of that knowledge, and they're a graphic designer. Like, that's a perfect combination of, depending on what the arrangement is, whether you're paying that individual or whether it's mutually beneficial for them to increase their reach and their scope of their work versus, getting the content to be able to do that, then great. That's another good, effective way of increasing your reach and scope on there. But it just depends what you've got access to and what your aspirations are, essentially. So, but let me know. Okay, simply because there's no more questions coming in and I'm running out of things to say, really, I think I'm going to call it a day. Unless anyone comes in with a last-minute question, and I will try and answer it. So. But again, already up to week 3, which is incredible. So let's go into next week with some real nice sessions ahead of you. Get yourselves prepared over the weekend. So you've got the rest of today, Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday to get a little bit of reading done ahead of the Tuesday sessions if you come in on Tuesday. And then and go from there, really. Keep an eye on the assessments and just, generally be good. So, pray for Christy, obviously. Good luck with everything. If everything starts happening, then good luck with that and keep us up to date. And we'll go. Thank you, Philippa, for saying that. I hope to be back up to full speed on Monday. Hence the staying off work until we're better, because travelling from Cambridgeshire every day is not much fun. So I would say that. So thank you very much for listening, everybody. It's been great to have that chat. Again, any questions, concerns, queries, get in touch. I will be running SEN Stream again next Friday, so do tune in. If you've got anything you want me to cover, send me an email. I'll try and cover it in next week's session. I'm always looking for that extra thing to share with you guys, so don't think that you'd be burdening me in any way. I'm actually actively looking for stuff to share with you. So thank you very much for watching. Have a great weekend, and I will see you all next week. Take it easy. See you later.